Hey everyone, welcome to your Daily Dose of Awesome. That is 15 minutes of inspiration, motivation, and education so you can get your day going strong. I am, of course, coming to you live from my car, as usual, and it's a little toasty today. I'm going to have to really think about these warmer summer months and how I can perhaps adjust my system so that it's not too toasty. Today I want to share with you 3 key takeaways from No Excuses. And what's cool is really what I'm going to share, this applies to essentially any event. And of course, what I'm going to share also applies to really just life in general, because so much of life is just putting yourself out there, showing up, being consistent. Hello, I see folks are joining. Welcome, welcome. Hello, everyone. Yes, it was fantastic to meet you guys at No Excuses, and we had a great weekend. The team, we're all just kind of getting back into the swing of things, and getting back to our regularly scheduled programming. There is a siren in the background. I apologize if that is loud. It seems like there's always something going on whenever I choose to go live, but the first thing I want to share with you guys, kind of tip number 1 or takeaway number 1 from No Excuses, is that you never know who you are impacting. And this is true. I've seen this over and over and over again throughout the years in many different contexts. Even when you're brand new, if you choose to take the things that you're learning and turn around and share those with your community that you're building, with your fans and your followers, you just never know whose life you're going to impact and change. And I can't tell you how many conversations with folks this weekend that I was privy to, that I overheard and saw, where, hello everyone, oh hey, we can maybe do some one-handed clapping today. Okay, so you just never know whose life you're going to be impacting. There are folks out there, and they are literally, they are following you, and they are looking to you for leadership and for you to essentially demonstrate by example what they should be doing to build their business. And even when you're new, just the fact that you put yourself out there, you demonstrated that level of leadership, is huge. And again, I overheard numerous conversations of folks saying like, wow, I met someone and they'd been watching my Facebook lives, and I created this impact in their life that I didn't know that I was having. And I think that's really cool. It's really huge. If you haven't yet had that experience, I just really want to encourage you to think about the fact that there are people out there, and they're watching what you're doing. They're watching you build your business. And this is true for people that are not quite to your level of experience. And this is also true for people that have eclipsed your level of experience and have achieved greater levels of success. There are a lot of folks that are watching you and are quite often, smiling and cheering behind the scenes, saying, wow, look at this person taking action, making it happen. I see really great things coming for them. And I know that's certainly true for me. I watch you guys, I read your blogs. When I see your Facebook lives pop up, I'm watching what you guys are doing. And what's really cool is it doesn't take that long before something that was at one point in time uncomfortable to you, next thing you know is just old hat, and you're doing it like it's no big deal. Whether it's writing, whether it's being on camera, it just takes a little bit of experience, and next thing you know, you're increasing your comfort level. And hopefully this isn't too loud for you guys. I apologize, but it's hopefully how it's funny, microphones tend to like pick up the things you don't want them to, and like not pick up the things you want them to that well. Anyway, so yeah, I just really want to encourage you guys, put yourself out there, live out loud. I mean, this is really huge. I mean, there's no substitute essentially for just creating. I mean, essentially, of course, as we know, online, all over the internet, when you're building your business in this way, you are your content. That is the only form. Oh, thank you. Got confirmation. It sounds good. So perfect. But you essentially are your content. I mean, when you're putting out content in the world, again, whether it's on a Facebook Live, whether it's a video that you pre-recorded, whether it's a blog post or an email you send out to your list, that's you. That's your presence online. And so, of course, you want to, balance out the quality and the quantity of those things. You don't want to just be creating content for content's sake, but make it a point, make it a consistent routine to be putting yourself out there and building your business. What's up, Ramiro? How you doing today, buddy? So number 2, so that was number 1. What was number 1? Number 1 is you never know who you're impacting. And really, I mean, you could literally be changing people's lives. I mean, literally, I overheard a conversation to that effect where someone who was quite shy on camera was kind of engaged in like a 30-day challenge of creating live videos and was like literally impacting lives. People were coming up to this individual at No Excuses and saying, wow, I love your videos. That's so cool. You really inspired me. And that's awesome, right? That's awesome to see. I mean, someone who was nervous about that process then turned around and inspired other people. I mean, that's kind of the way this works. I mean, your content is essentially going to cascade. You're not just changing one person's life. There's a cascading effect where, that ripple is essentially impacting, I mean, a multitude. So that's very cool. I mean, that's one of the awesome things about what we do. And of course, it was really cool to hear from you guys. I'm glad to hear that a lot of you are enjoying the lives that we're putting out there, and a lot of you think it's humorous that I'm always doing lives from my car, and a lot of you know the reason as to how come that's the case. I do have a little person who's about 5 months old up in upstairs, and so that makes it challenging to do this sort of thing at home. So number 2 is get to events. I really can't emphasize this enough. I know we've really we've talked about this a lot recently, but it really is so impactful to make it to a live event, to be able to see the other folks that are essentially doing what you're doing, and of course the folks that you yourself are impacting in your business that you may not even be aware. Events, the big thing is, and I know we've talked about this before, but it really is just so huge. What events really do is they just change your level of belief, and they just really, you're meeting all these people that are doing the same thing that you're doing, and oftentimes you're meeting people that you're perhaps looking up to, and then you realize, wow, this person is essentially just like me, and not too long ago this person was in my shoes, and that's huge. I mean, there's belief is such a funny thing, right? I mean, we look at other folks and we see like, oh wow, okay, well, it just makes sense that you're achieving X, Y, Z, right? Maybe there's something special about you, but that just really isn't the case. It really, success is just, it's more of a habit than anything else. Success is really just doing something consistently, building up your skill level, building up your presence, and just getting into a place of momentum. And it takes a little bit of time. I mean, when you're gaining a fan base and you're gaining a following, it's going to start a little bit slowly, and then all of a sudden it can just take off. And so it's really cool to see that. And the main thing, of course, to keep in mind is just consistency. And the next thing that I want to share with you is just the importance of, look, a lot of you were at the event, which is fantastic. I see a lot of names and faces of people that I was able to meet for the first time at No Excuses. There was, of course, a lot of excitement. There's a lot of energy. There are a lot of people of a very similar mindset gathering together. I mean, we had, 400 or 500 people at the event, which is tremendous to see, and everyone's really, really fired up. And so my advice to you, and I really, really want to emphasize this, keep that momentum going. Okay, it's of course easy to get fired up and motivated and inspired at an event, but again, success is more of a habit than anything else, right? There are some contexts in which achieving success is a product of timing or luck or something like that. I mean, perhaps the stock market or something is one of those places where if you're at the right place at the right time and you pick the right stock, right? Like if we'd all invested in Google like 15 years ago, right? Like that wouldn't have required a lot of investment on our part other than monetary, right? But if we'd known where to be at the right place at the right time, right? We could have essentially struck gold. That's not the way this kind of business works, right? That's not the way for those of you that are building a network marketing or direct selling or affiliate marketing, but essentially whatever you happen to be doing, whatever variety of entrepreneurship you're currently engaged in, that's not how this works, right? Your success building your tribe and your fans and followers and your influence online, that is 100%, yes, Sally, it is a product of consistency. It is much more a habit than anything else. So I really want you to think about, hey, events are fantastic. It's a great place to fill our buckets and get motivated and inspired. But you got to keep that going. You have to figure out, what essentially is it going to take? What systems do I need to put in place in my business so that I can be consistent, so that I can be productive? And I really, really want to encourage you guys to really, if you haven't already, create a schedule and say, when am I going to do what? Schedule it out. And deadlines are huge. This is true for myself as much as anyone else, right? Like I can, of course, tell you this from experience. I'm someone that thrives on deadlines. If it wasn't for deadlines, I would never get anything done. I promise you. I would not just magically wake up and be productive. But the fact that I have a deadline, somehow things happen because there's a deadline. And if there wasn't a deadline, believe me, nothing would happen. And so you really need to look at your life and figure out what kind of motivation it's going to take to start to, create A, the deadlines, and then B, what sort of motivator is going to get you to hit those deadlines. Because of course, as an entrepreneur, we are essentially our own bosses in the entrepreneurial space. So you need to figure out what kind of motivator it's going to take for you. Sometimes it's an internal motivator, sometimes it's an external motivator, sometimes it's a combination of both, right? Like, what can you do? I've done this before in the past, right? Like when I was first beginning the process of writing and blogging, I had a buddy and I said, hey, here's what we're going to do. We are going to produce X amount of content in X amount of time. And if we don't achieve that, we essentially are going to have some penalties. And the penalty was we were going to have to pony up and actually have some consequences that were monetary. And we, in this case, it came down to buying bottles of wine. So if a week went by and we hadn't achieved what we wanted to achieve, it was then required to buy a really nice bottle of wine and gift it to that other person. That is an example of an external motivator, right? That's someone else that I've entered into a contract with, and they are going to keep me on point, and they're going to keep me producing like I said I was going to produce. Other forms of motivation are internal. Maybe you're more motivated by internal. A lot of us, I think, are kind of more externally motivated, and we kind of need that pressure coming from elsewhere, whether it's, friends, family, but really you want to put some teeth in the game. And that's really, and I know it's one thing to hear that and to say oh, that's a cool idea, but I really want to encourage you to actually implement it. Because I knew, of course, about that idea. I knew that was something that one could do long before I actually implemented it in my life. And I can tell you, once I finally implemented it, all of a sudden things really began to change. And of course, there's nothing like, if it wasn't for you guys, if it wasn't for the community, and it wasn't for the fact that you guys have certain expectations about, we're doing Daily Dose of Awesomes, right? We're creating content consistently, right? Like, we have things that we're delivering to you guys, and you guys have certain expectations about hearing from us on a very regular schedule, right? That's kind of how it works. So you guys are essentially keeping us accountable for doing what we're essentially promising that we're going to do. And I can promise you that's a huge piece of the equation. And so figure out what it is. Figure out if it's an external, internal motivation, and really put some teeth in there, because you do want to have some consequences if you don't. Yeah, the quiet spot in my office. Yes. So a lot of you at the event said that you were amused by the fact that I'm always, of course, doing my lives in my car. And a lot of you were also amused by the fact too that I'm a bit larger in person than I currently seem. So I'm happy to be kind of back in my usual format. So, perhaps I'm now like this big on your screen or your mobile device. And so things are back to normal. I'll give you guys one more quick tip today. If you want to see. So this is actually my setup. So it's very complex. So if you can see, this is my little stand for my phone. I have, of course, 2 of these, but I just kind of sit this on my dash, 2 of these guys, and that is how complicated my setup is. And so with just the tiniest little bit of ingenuity, if you will, you too can have such a wonderful office and such a wonderful stand for your phone, and you too can hop on Facebook Lives and deliver value to your community. So with that, those are my 3 key takeaways from No Excuses. Again, for those of you that I was able to meet for the first time, and of course some of you I have met in the past, it was very much an honor and a pleasure. I love serving this community. There's such good energy. I think we can all agree that this is a really motivated and passionate group of individuals, and you guys are doing some really incredible things. And it truly is a privilege to be a part of your journey and to play whatever role that I may in inspiring you and educating you for you to get out there and essentially do what you need to do to make it happen in your life and in your business. And I really do love the growth aspect of this industry because, as solopreneurs, it really, so much of it comes down to us just growing as people, expanding our comfort zones, doing things that we didn't know that we can do, and it's just really cool. I mean, this is not necessarily something that comes pre-installed, right? Like we're not all necessarily built, right, with all of the skills and the comfort level that we need to do what we need to do to have the kind of lifestyle we want to have. And it's something that you just have to keep pushing, keep putting yourself out there, keep impacting lives. And next thing you know, you're sort of arriving. And again, it's sort of just that product of consistency. And sometimes you kind of arrive there before you even thought. I can think of many examples in my own life of not necessarily self-identifying with a particular label, but having other people put that label onto me and then having me go, oh yeah, I guess I have achieved a certain thing. And therefore you could say, apply the label of a writer, a copywriter or something onto me. That's something that happened long before I necessarily thought myself like, oh, I've achieved this level of competency that should be recognized. So it's just very, very cool. And again, getting back to that idea that you're impacting people that you might not even know that you're impacting. But just by putting yourself out there, that gives you the opportunity to touch so many people's lives. So I hope that was motivational for you guys. Keep doing what you do. And if I can do anything for you, please let me know. And we'll see you next time. Hope you have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow. And yeah, keep being awesome. We'll talk to you soon.